Please join us in welcoming to the stage our representatives from our product and engineering team for the Create Q&A.
Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Now, this is your chance to ask your burning questions to product and engineering leadership at Roblox. Now, there are 2 Q&A sessions going on right this second, as you may or may not know. So in the tent is a different Q&A session. That one's focused on things like search and discovery, the economy, subscriptions, brand partnerships, education, civility, and influencer. So you have burning questions in that domain. Please feel free to hike over there real fast. Now this group, on the other hand,
is the better one.
You can see we all got the brief on the uniform to wear, except Garima. But no, this is an eclectic group of people that can answer practically every question I think you may have. So we ask everyone that has a question to please come up to the mics left and right. And while you do that, I'm going to get our panelists warmed up with a complete softball question. So panelists, what features are you most excited about that we have announced at RDC that you're most excited about? And let's start with Garima.
I think most of you can guess what I'm most excited about if you were at the keynote yesterday. I'm really excited about Connect and the calling API that's coming with it. And I think the reason I'm most excited about it is communication is so core to Roblox. So many of you have been integrating voice and camera tracking and wanting to integrate other like private communication use cases. And this is our very big step towards it. And it's a very big step towards immersive communication. Where people can really feel like they're with each other, and it's really exciting. Like, I don't think you can do this on any other product in the world today, and it's a big, big, big step towards communication, so I'm very excited about it. And I'm more excited to see how you all use it. I can't begin to imagine everything.
I'm going to shift gears and ask Josh from our engine team.
In case you didn't hear, we are shipping a mesh and texture API. I'm super excited about this because from day one, we've built this to work in experience and not just in studio. I think this is going to power a whole new generation of in-experience creation tooling, and I cannot wait to see what you all do with it. It's going to take the platform to a whole new level.
Definitely. Jen, what are you most looking forward to?
It's a tough question because there's been so many great announcements. I think if I had to choose one, from a user perspective, I'm super excited that we're coming to the PlayStation. On the other hand, I'm also super excited to learn about Assistant, the conversational AI creation tool. I think it's a game changer. It's going to unleash such a wide range of creativity on the platform for novices and professionals alike. It's really going to allow the platform to see creativity and diversity of experiences that we've never seen before. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that has in store, what you guys are able to create with that in the months and years to come.
So we really didn't prepare any real conversation, so please come up for a live Q&A. We really want to answer like your burning questions, or have you been Q&A'd out already? Is that what's going on here?
What are your plans for the future of more advanced development tools like mirroring and stuff like that? I'd love to hear more about what you're doing in that area.
Josh or?
So we're always thinking about like what tools to build next. And frankly, we look at a lot of your feedback to influence our roadmap. We've thought about mirroring a little bit. I don't know off the top of my head if it's on the roadmap or not. I'm assuming you mean like mirroring for animation with avatars and all. I can certainly follow up offline and get back to you if you wonder specifically about that. But I would say if there's anything in particular you want and have feedback for, find us afterwards and tell us.
Or tell us now. That's cool. Please.
Hello. So I really love the. Sorry, this is really low. I really love the direction that Roblox is going in with the in-experience creation and then publishing of assets. I saw during the keynote that there was a point where you could take an inexperienced screen capture and then save it to your camera roll. As a corollary to that, will you ever allow users to record video in experience and then potentially share it on the platform?
Garima?
Yeah, I can speak more to it. The short answer is yes. I don't know in the classic Roblox style if it'll be just video. We need to figure out what's the right format for Roblox and what's the right format for like 3D immersive viewing of these things. It could be replays, it could be just being inside that experience. I think Roblox has an opportunity to recreate the next format. So I'm very excited. Screenshots is definitely our first step, and there's a lot more to come here.
I think the fundamental thing to think about is like we would want video for being able to post off platform, right? Like broadcast from Roblox elsewhere, but on platform video like isn't as useful to us as the 3D scene as it was constructed. And so I think we'd also love to think about ways to preserve and share that, and then maybe even make it interactable and do other cool future looking things with it. So lots to come here. And it's definitely something we're thinking about moving forward.
One example I always talk about is, a few years ago, people would take silent movies and photos, and then it became videos. And now it's kind of like, we could do videos, but the world as it has known for the last couple of years has been looking at a screen with a video playing. But what if you could be inside it, and what if you could interact with it, and what if you could learn from it? And I think that's really where the content format is going. So we need to figure out how to make it all happen. But we're thinking about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just thinking like not even necessarily video, like it could be a new type of immersive format, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like Roblox could be a new type of social media platform that could leverage this.
One might even say we already are.
Exactly, right?
You're speaking our language, because that word you just used, we've actually ideated with that same sort of language internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
Of course. Thank you for asking.
So, hello, I'm Dan, and what I wanted to ask about, so Roblox is currently very, very good at man-made creations, so lots of stuff to do with bricks and concrete and stuff like that. However, natural options for building are quite limited. It's quite hard to, for example, naturally grow moss or to introduce damp or cracks into things. So what I'd like to ask is, what are your plans for more natural building, more organic things, perhaps like scattering, procedural stuff? What do you think?
Josh, you want to take a crack at that one?
We just shipped grass height, and you're already asking for more?
Oh, I'm just so excited by the grass, I just want more.
As well, you should be asking for more.
Yeah.
Look, I'll tell you, we're thinking about more. It is genuinely hard, and we're trying, just to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain. When we take on something like this, we want to make sure that we do things in ways that are still going to work in 10 years, that today work on a low-end Android device, that are as easy as possible for you to craft and more. These are really hard problems, so these systems and the design needs to be really thoughtful. Like when we think about, hey, how might you actually do, whether you call it scattering or set dressing, a great system there, we actually want to think about, well, how do we make that easier? What does this mean in the context of like biomes? How might that relate to materials? How do you set it up so that if you have grass in a field versus sparse in a forest, you actually get different objects on top of that too? So a lot of these things are on our mind, and you'll see them come from us over the next few years. But to quote Arseny, I'm going to say that falls into the not soon bucket.
Now, were you asking about kind of the simulation of these things, or in terms of making it easier to create that kind of vegetation?
Mostly just about the creation side of it. So for buildings, I'm not necessarily talking about dynamic simulations, just about like set dressing, that sort of thing. So as you mentioned, like procedurally scattering around vegetation and stuff like that.
Nick, we kind of demoed some of that stuff as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really interesting things happening here. One of the things we've been talking about in the future packages is having like higher level interfaces and capabilities that might be more procedurally generated, like you could ask the plant to grow or the tree to branch more, that sort of thing. I think when we talk about in-experience creation, it also just opens up a ton of possibility. Like if you're trying to scatter, maybe plants would be a bad example, but maybe you're trying to scatter some rocks or something like that. Well, we have a physics simulator, right? So how about if you just like drop them from way up in the air, and then they'll naturally scatter, and you'll get this really organic pattern. So I think And that's how we're thinking about creation, is like you'll do some things in studio, you might do some things in simulation, you'll be able to go back and forth, which I think gets to some of what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
The other thing we're thinking about is we actually internally had a generative AI demo where we, in fact, were making things more mossy or not, and using the AI to help search through Marketplace and find the right assets and combine them together in creative ways. So I think there's going to be other ways as well for different levels of creators. But great question.
My name is Caleb, or Blackout Dev on Roblox. I'm a 3D environment artist, and I was thinking a lot about your new tooling for a lot of like modifying textures for things in Studio, or well, in Experience. So I was thinking about, if I make a building, what would be the possibility of in the future expanding the capabilities of it to be able to do something like vertex painting on a building? So like, say I have a plain brick building and I want to add dirt on the bottom or cracks or edge wear or things like that somewhere, or say paint stucco over it or something like that. What are the thoughts on adding something like that?
So you're really asking about material layering?
Yeah.
It is certainly on our roadmap. We are thinking about it right now. I will just say that the new dynamic image, whatever the final name was, that's going to be the start of a lot of the pieces you're looking for.
Okay, cool. And then I had like one really quick follow-up one. Has anybody thought about decal projection?
Yeah, a little bit actually. We want to find ways to integrate with material systems so that we get more of the other properties, so that we can make it emulate the real world when we want to get physics involved, instead of just being an image projected somewhere.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Trip. I just wanted to ask if any of you have any thoughts or insights on upgrades to the user input service, specifically looking at sort of like Unreal Engine and the enhanced input plugin, and the way that they handle sort of input maps and this sort of really deep platform abstraction. If there's any plans for stuff like that.
Klaus or Josh?
I'm not familiar with the Unreal plugin and what level it's abstracted to. Can you say a little bit more?
Yeah. So let's say like you have I have touch controls for movement. I've got a thumbstick and then I've got WASD. You can essentially take all of these inputs and list them out in a map, which kind of outputs to one sort of input object, and then there's middleware involved that kind of transforms that into one type of input, vector input, or just up, down, left, right. So like all of these platforms essentially become one object.
Yeah, I think that's very consistent with how we would like the input to work in the Roblox engine as well. Maybe we can catch up afterwards and figure out where we're currently falling short, but the idea is that input modality on each platform that we support should be fully abstracted at the point at which it actually translates into a verb that's being executed by the avatar. And so, it shouldn't matter whether it's keyboard, mouse, gamepad, DualShock or DualSense or what hand controllers and MetaQuest. All of those should be things that ultimately your game code isn't looking for a specific button input from a specific controller type. It's listening for abstracted either vector input or eventually even avatar verbs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Awesome. And I'll catch up. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to add that we are actually actively designing and thinking about a new movement system across the board. That will kind of exactly your question around like, how do we take lots of different kinds of inputs and how do we make it really consistent across different platform types or devices, but also how do you abstract that into like simple four input or 4 key versions, along with like saying maybe there is a specialized version that does a certain verb and stuff like that. So we are actually actively thinking about it. There's more to come. We'll cover a little bit of that in the next talk as well.
And I'll add to that, avatar movement, like forward, back, left, right. I think we're pretty close, and I'd love to hear more about where and if we're missing the mark. For like selectable input, buttons, touchscreen, et cetera. We will always have a level where developers can access the raw input because we want you to be able to build custom things there. But at the same time, we want all of you thinking about the fact that Roblox intends to support more platforms in the future. Those platforms have different input types. If you look at some of the things that have been announced in the industry, some of them don't even have buttons, right? So we want to make sure that we're building future-proof abstractions for all of that, and there's a lot more to come.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll talk to you outside.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You should see the internal test where we put Klaus in a mocap suit and make him walk around the office.
Hi, my name's Jasper. I'm wondering if there's any plans on more lighting effects, such as like chromatic aberration or other, like just basically shaders also, like shader material support as well.
Yeah, right now our focus with lighting is twofold. One is bringing future lighting to Android. You saw a preview of that yesterday. And the second is that we want to add a new, basically replace the CPU voxel light grid with a GPU voxel light grid that looks much, much better. So that's going to give us consistent, scalable lighting, no pops, et cetera. Once we have that in place, then we'll start thinking about how to go further and what options there are to improve it, to add different types of camera effects and more.
I remember there was a hack week and there was a few shaders, like there was a fisheye shader and those kinds of things. Are those still planned?
We have them on the back burner right now. Frankly, it's just an issue of team bandwidth and priorities as opposed to like, oh, we do or don't want to do those necessarily. Yeah.
Same thing with material shaders.
We hear you.
Okay.
I think one of the, if you don't mind coming back for a second, I think one thing that we've been interested to hear more from the community about is, what are the exact applications you were thinking about for material shaders?
I think a big one is like flat colors that aren't affected by lighting, because right now you can only really do that with neon or like a selection box, or highlights, but highlights are kind of limited in terms of how many you can have. I think moving textures and like something node-based would be really cool. Like Unity has a PBR node-based system for shader graphs, and I think something like that could be really interesting. Stuff like cell fracturing and basically making a mesh go in and out of existence, if that makes sense. Just kind of, There's also stuff like vignettes, like having a highlight that's not like a directly, like a highlight, like an outline. It's more of like a fade in and out. But just stuff like that would be really cool.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Of course.
Hey, so my name's Josh, LG Lacey, and I was wondering if there's any plans to either raise the highlight limit or have a way for it to be automatically managed. Because if I have a highlight in the workspace that's just sitting replicated storage even, that counts towards the limit even though you will never see it.
I haven't heard any plans about that. I don't know if any of you have, but I can follow up afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's great feedback. A more dynamic system there would make a lot of sense.
Cool, thank you.
Hello, I'm Noah. I do some of the UI, UX design for Frontlines, and so kind of doing a lot of the main menu interactions. Just was kind of wondering if you'd looking forward to just the UI on Roblox. Are you gonna natively support slider options? Because I know Unity and Godot, those engines already support those. We already, a lot of the things for just creating a settings page, it's a lot of manual kind of having to do it in-house. Just kind of wondering what the future is like for that.
Short answer is yes. Right now, our priority is, you saw a preview of it if you came to the engine talk this morning. We're building out style sheets, so you can change the look and feel of UI with one click. Works in 3D objects as well. Flex layouts are the next bit, essentially more responsive layouts. So you build your UI once, it auto-adapts better to all platforms. We do have an improved set of components on the roadmap. We want to do those two things first, though.
Cool. I just had a follow-up question. Is that some of the engines also support some blend modes for frames? So you can have kind of in Photoshop with layers, you can have I don't know, background effects, so you can blur images behind certain frames. I don't know if the direction for the engine, just for UI, is going to go in any ways where you can alter things behind frames or kind of blend certain elements.
Yeah, we've certainly got a lot of requests the past 2 days about UI blur. Not on the roadmap right now, but we'll certainly look at it.
Cool, thank you.
So while Dan walks up to the mic, loving all the engine questions, we also have people from safety, from international. So if you want to mix it up or have questions about the rest of Roblox, we're ready and willing to take any question.
Really, he's sick of my voice.
Well, unfortunately, I have another question about UI, so about mixing it up. I think I have one word here that I think lots of people will agree is kind of missing from Roblox right now in terms of UI. Anti-aliasing. So rotated UIs right now, they're looking a little bit worse for wear. So even if only on high-end graphics, high-end computers, will we see anti-aliasing for UI anytime soon?
I'm trying to think of a funny reply, and I'm
By the way, the
struggling.
Universal app would like this too. Just just to be clear.
Did you all see how Studio was refreshed about a year ago now with high
Yeah.
DPI and how fantastic it looked? Yes, we hear you. Understood.
Yeah, thank you. Hi there, Lancelot with Royal High, and there was been some talk in some other panels and stuff like that, but it was mostly like dev-centered, I guess. And I guess we're kind of curious from Roblox's end, how likely is it to actually have a feature where Roblox is allowing users to essentially buy developer products, game passes for other players? Like some devs have created like gifting systems within their own games where you could buy something for another player. Is that on your radar at all? And how likely are we to see that, I guess?
The one group that's not represented here to answer that question.
You said any question.
Yeah, I said we try.
I'm teasing.
So what are you wondering about UI?
I don't have any UI questions.
So we have a bunch of devs that have made gifting systems on the platform already. I agree that we don't have like direct API support for this. I think it's interesting. I think we need to figure out, like, there's probably a large amount of legal and safety implications of doing this that we'd have to really deeply think through to support it as like a first-party functionality. But it's a really interesting suggestion. I think we can take it and follow up.
Yeah, I guess a side note for that then would be for devs that haven't already developed that, does it seem like a conflict at all within the devs to then develop that? Since you mentioned safety and legal and stuff like that. I feel like most devs obviously don't want to step on toes.
Well, let me say this. I think the experiences that exist on the platform today that do this, I don't think we have an issue with them from a safety perspective.
No, it is from the policies we don't prevent it, as far as I know right now. But in general, we are worried about it. If we support it as a first-class feature, then gifting across different kinds of audiences, we do need to be very careful about it.
Could you speak a little bit more to the use case and like the value you have in mind for doing this?
So, I mean, some of the games that have already implemented are games like Jailbreak and stuff, where if a user has Robux and they want to buy, essentially their like battle pass, which is like a long time reward for playing and stuff, but they don't want to like leave their friend behind in progress and stuff like that, they could buy that game pass for them so that they can continue the experience together. Or if you want to like skip a level in a game, basically anything that would separate two users because one user doesn't have Robux, right? You could then include, it's very inclusive to different players.
That's actually really interesting. We think a lot about user-to-user interactions from a user perspective. It's something we are thinking about just as a broader theme for next year, but that's a really interesting idea, and I might find you later to talk more about it.
And you should look for us after as well to give us more details on exactly how you think.
You guys should be around the floor, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
We'll find you.
Okay.
We'll be around.
Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kitachian for Triax Studios. This is an international question. I know we talked a lot about Japan and India and Brazil. What are some other international markets y'all are excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. I think those countries that you mentioned already, those are definitely high on our radars from a user perspective. A lot of regions we're seeing tremendous growth out of Southeast Asia and Latin America overall. So not just India, but Southeast Asia region in general is one of our fastest growing regions year over year. So I'm super excited about the growth that we're seeing there. Europe as well. We're already growing faster outside of US, Canada than US, Canada in all the major cohorts. Europe, Latin America, Southeast Asia, MENA region, I think in a couple of years is going to be super exciting too. So it's not, I'm sorry to answer it this way, but it's all of these areas we're really excited about for, and it's really interesting to see because you see the growth in different markets taking off at different points in time, but they tend to sort of follow a similar trajectory. So it's really exciting to see when countries start, getting to that point, of that tipping point in various regions.
And a quick follow-up question. Are we concerned or excited, so to say, two sides of the same coin, about perhaps like the average revenue per user of the different regions and how we scale at these different regions and how we're going to match that?
Totally, that's a really great question. And as you guys know, like GDP around the world is not the same, right? It's not equal. And so we're the one team that's not represented here, but I'll try to channel them as much as possible, which is we're thinking about this really, really deeply because we want to make sure that that we're not penalizing users just because they're from a place that typically can't afford a thing that someone from Western Europe can afford. So we're looking into it to look into ways of making that possible, because in reality, our vision is that the Roblox economy mirrors the real world economy, and so we want to make that possible to compensate for the various levels of GDP per capita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just add one thing. We also still spend a lot of time thinking about China as well. I think we're still excited about it.
Very excited about that too.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica. I'm a Brazilian developer, so also from the international team. And I wanted to ask if you guys have plans to geo restrictions for an experience.
To only publish an experience to specific geographies?
Yeah. Like, because we're in Brazil, obviously we know the culture, of course, and what if our team wants to do an experience only for Brazilians? How can we do that?
I don't think we have that, but when we do matchmaking, we essentially coalesce people together into the same region. So if most of our users are from Brazil, you will end up seeing them together. But I don't think we do geofencing.
One thing I might add to it is even ranking. So if your experience is resonating with people in certain countries or in Brazil, the ranking should ideally take care of itself. And so people who see it ranked up should be people who it would appeal more to. So that's another way, that's another way the system takes care of itself. But a big part of Roblox philosophy is we want things to be available to all the developers and all the users at all times, and we don't want to necessarily restrict things. That being said, I don't know, we have not actively thought about geofencing, and I can imagine that's why.
The one other place where we have thought about this is when, if a region were to implement policy that requires you to somehow change your content, we would probably give you the option to opt out of supporting that region or that country if you didn't want to make that content change. Like, say a country outlawed purple hats, but your game had purple hats in it. You could say, I still want my purple hats, but I'm just not going to publish in that country. We don't really support geographies that have that restrictive policy today. But I don't think we've ever thought of sort of supporting this just so that you could focus on a specific country, because we don't see a lot of cost or risk in if your game is focused on Brazil, why wouldn't that experience still be played in neighboring countries, in other players from Brazil in other countries around the world? It seems intuitive that you'd still want it published elsewhere.
Okay, yeah. For us, I know the brands team is on the other Q&A, but for us, we've lost brands opportunities because of that. And a follow-up question is if, let's say, our studio wants to focus more in a specific region, why can't we see top charts? For example, what are the top games played in Brazil, and also by gender or by age? Do you guys have plans for that?
Jen, on the international side, we've talked about
I'm not sure on the creator side. I think that's a really great suggestion on surfacing that, because internally we do look at that very much in order to see what type of content is really growing for a particular segment of users. And we do see that certain markets favor different types of content. Some favor fighting genre, some favor more shopping, and et cetera. So I think this is an area that that we want to look into and expose more to creators, so that creators know that what type of dynamics of experiences do I want to start exposing to our users. So I think it's a great suggestion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great feature suggestion for our analytics team. Thank you.
Hello again. I had a few more questions about camera effects and stuff. Is there any plans to unlock the FOV from 120?
We haven't talked about it.
Okay. Are there any plans on implementing orthographic camera?
We have talked about that one a bit. I don't know the state of it.
I also want to know if there's any plans on split screen integration. Because I remember at Hack Week there was a demonstration of a split screen. And I know with VR, there's obviously the 2 screens, so that's already kind of a...
Yeah, I haven't heard of it explicitly on the roadmap. I feel like we've talked about orthocams more.
We have talked about having multiple scriptable cameras in space that could render to multiple surfaces. No promises yet, but the user group is also pushing for that. So,
and the same thing with that. That would kind of fall more into improving viewport frames and the cameras on those.
Yeah.
You know, this is really amazing because it helps us corner Josh after this, and we're gonna force him to.
We'll slip you a 20 afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if David's in the room, like, can we get some more budget for? Can we get some more budget for the rendering team? We hear you. So.
I was also wondering, in terms of split screen, or I wasn't wondering, but we were out in the booth and we were playing the front lines on the PS5, and I was like, this would be great with split screen. So it was just something that came to mind.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, actually, let me ask you about that. So in that use case, you'd like to have multiple players, multiple avatars on the same console, but potentially logged in. That's a fantastic thought that we definitely have not thought through supporting right now. Like, the single living room multiple player experience is like one person on console and the other people on mobile or whatever. I think it's definitely something we should think about. And
right, because right now it would be more of a hardware thing to have multiple people on.
I'm all
about
couch co-op. Yep. And if you have more use cases there, we're interested because we obviously want it for social communication, immersive communication as well.
If anything comes up, I'll come back down.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
You should come find us after.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Just to set expectations, we have 3.5 minutes left, so I do want to hope to try to get through most of this, so please.
All right. My question was, I know that you guys were working on the lighting engine, getting it on Android and improving the voxel stuff. Do you have any plans after that on incorporating screen space reflections and stuff to Roblox outside of just the water?
Yeah, TLDRs, we have a bunch of ideas about how we can make lighting even better and a number of things that I don't think anybody here even has imagined possible. And we'll talk about those when we have more to share.
And another quick question. Do you have plans on like giving developers access to like the nav mesh and basically just reading the nav mesh and parts of it for the pathfinding and stuff?
We generally have a philosophy that we want to keep implementation details away from the developer because that gives us the freedom to change it over time. So right now we don't have plans to expose that because we see that more akin to an implementation detail.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, so 2 quick questions. One is, have you had any discussions about particles and trails in viewport frames?
The general challenge with viewport frames is just the performance impact that they have because you're having to render multiple views of the world. And if you can imagine like the range of devices we support, like how that looks in lower end devices. So we've had a lot of thoughts about, hey, what could we do to improve viewport frames, not just for particles in particular, but in general. Some of it might be motivated by folks on stage, but nothing concrete yet.
Cool, thanks. And the second question is, are there any plans for like A/B testing for like icons and thumbnails that's integrated rather than just uploading? And,
we've been investing a lot in creator analytics, and hopefully you've seen that with some of the new capabilities coming out. A/B testing is definitely on our short list. A/B testing of the icons for sure, but also more broadly A/B testing for things within your experience. Yeah.
Great.
No dates associated with that yet, but it's on our short list. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask some questions about the UI editor. Currently, it's a little interesting to try and figure out how certain things work. It's sort of screw around and find out with all these aspect ratio constraints and stuff like that. Are there any plans for like visualizers? Like some guides showing you like where exactly your padding is, what kind of walls and boundaries you're hitting with your aspect ratio, stuff like that?
Our general approach right now is we want to improve the core system itself and add new capabilities, and then we'll work on the editing tool. It's like you need to build the things that you're going to edit before you build the editor. Certainly give us the feedback so that when we work on the tool, we can add features like that.
Absolutely, thank you.
As we implement the Signal API to adjust your UI for Roblox first-party UI, a lot of that visualization becomes really important, so I think it will come.
I think we have time for just one more.
Okay, super quick question for moderation and international. So yesterday you announced moderation for voice chat. So I was wondering, is it going to be English only at first or for other languages? How are you going to handle challenges like when words might be considered a swear word in one language but safe in another language?
Yeah, so we are going to roll out in English pretty shortly. but the other languages are on our roadmap, and we will roll them out over the next few quarters. In terms of how other languages will be supported, yes, I mean, we do need to get the training data from each of these other languages, and then we're going to use that to train our models so that it's very country specific, very language specific as well. So yeah, it's on our plans, not too far away.
I'm very sorry, I think we just about ran out of time, but some of us might be hanging around after this, so come up for us. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.